We will now begin with our last session for today, which is special session, an open forum with Sikyong, Penpa, Tsering, Central Tibetan Administration. We have moderator Wolfgang, who will moderate and take question and answers later on. So this session is planned for an hour, and we welcome our Sikyong and Wolfgang here, and also we encourage you to take this opportunity to raise questions later on. Thank you.
So, good afternoon. My name is Wolfgang Greder. I'm from Germany, from Tibet Initiative Deutschland, Tibet Support Group Germany. I'm happy to here now, and I would like to help for some moderating. And now I would like to give the word to
Thank you.
Sikyong.
Let's go there. Thank you, Wolfgang, for chairing this session. I don't know what really the Department of Information and International Relations have in mind for this session, but if possible, we can make this more interactive and see what you want to know from the CDA side as to what CDA is doing, and then look at how we can cooperate together. So this morning, we discussed a little bit about what we have been doing internationally along with all of you, and you all know when we travel to your countries, your support has always been there. So similarly, we try to reach out to other countries as much as possible. Now, within here in Dharamsala, of course, this does not concern you directly, but then if this Central Tibetan Administration does not exist in the form that it does now, then we will have problems in future. At the same time, one of the main job of the Central Tibetan Administration is to make sure that the Tibetan public and the Central Tibetan Administration remain close. Even though we are becoming physically distant, now spread across more than 27 different countries, we have to make sure that all the Tibetans stay close mentally. So this is what we have been trying to do over the last 5 years, to visit every Tibetan community, not just visit a settlement and come back, but when we visit the settlement, we go to every single camp, visit every single institution. Now, if you tell me one settlement, that camp, it's all in my mind. So it's very easy to take decisions once you're up here also, because you know the situation. And earlier, of course, His Holiness used to travel, and there was no problem, because wherever His Holiness goes, every Tibetan comes together, so there was no question about, or challenges about the cohesion of the Tibetan community. Now it is, and here in India, I think with some of you, we already discussed these issues. In India, one of the challenges we are facing is the dispersal of the compact communities. So we are only about 40,000 Tibetans in exile, and about 70,000 are in India, 10,000 in Nepal, about a little more than 1,000 in Bhutan. Now Bhutanese government is giving them citizenship. Unlike other countries, once you become Bhutanese citizens, then you cannot take part in Tibetan exile political life. So the rest of the Tibetans are spread across the world. So we cannot stop the changes. It's natural flow of demographic and social changes that is overtaking us, just like it is with a lot of other communities. So, but we watch the situation based on what changes are happening and what we need to prepare from now and how we need to prepare for future. So some of the big projects that this present cabinet took over was the building back what we call as the building back compact community. So we found that there are about 1,800 Tibetan families who don't have homes out of about 18,000 families in India and Nepal. So that's about 10% of the Tibetan population in India and Nepal who don't have homes. So the immediate need is to provide them home, to provide them some kind of security to a family. But the long-term objective is to keep the compact communities vibrant, because of which we have been able to preserve our language through our educational institutions, cultural institutions, religious institutions, and so on. So it's very essential that if we have to sustain the Tibet movement in the longer time into the future, then we have to make sure that these compact communities in exile remain vibrant and contribute towards the cause. So there will be a lot of other programs within the community, because one thing we have not been able to do was to provide opportunities, employment opportunities for young Tibetans who receive modern education, because most of the Tibetan settlements are located in rural areas in India. Now we are looking at other options of tourism and other things where people can stay back, younger people can stay back in the settlements and make a living. So those kind of things, and we have been investing a lot on public infrastructure over the last 3-4 years. And this is the trend we will be going forward in the next few years. Along with this Building Back Compact Community program, there are a lot of public utilities that we need to build, settlement officers, schools, hospitals. So population is going down, but now if we build all the infrastructure that is necessary for the present number of population, then I don't think we need to invest too much in infrastructure in future. More investment would be for maintenance of this infrastructure, which we are trying to do as best as we can now. Then we can focus more on other areas. And one area of also becoming self-reliant within ourselves is to seek support from the Tibetans who have moved from here to outside. And there has been a lot of cooperation going on between the Tibetans who are settled here and who have moved out, the former settlers. They contribute back to the settlements and, contribute to the development of the settlement. And if these communities keep continuing the same kind of cooperation in the future and looking at the basic needs of the community, then I think this will also take us more towards self-reliance in future. Of course, we will have to keep depending on certain issues like education, health, political things. Like I said this morning, maybe some funding opportunities might open up a lot more spaces for us to function. So there may be space for us to work together if we manage to get all the fundings back. So this is just to give you the situation here in exile. And we have to make sure that the CTA, the Central Tibetan Administration, as I said this morning, is to make sure that 20, 30 years down the line, this administration remain as strong as it is today under the leadership of His Holiness Dalai Lama, and be able to take the challenge of the interregnum period when His Holiness is no longer with us, and the next, if it is takes that long. So that is what we need to prepare for. And in the international arena, we have been working together. I think we learn from every single one of you. I have learned a lot. And I'm sure you also learned some things from us about how to speak about Tibetan advocacy. What are the main issues that we are driving at, and if we can take that narrative together without having to fight amongst ourselves, there's no need. There's no need at all. If we keep fighting among ourselves, then we don't need China as an opponent. We can make sure that we don't succeed ourselves, right? So this is very simple logic. I'll close here, and then with Wolfgang's permission, open the floor for interaction. Any suggestions that you have for us to do in future, or any questions that you have? Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction. I know Sikyong is always around the world. Last November, he was in Germany and visited Germany deputies and the Tibetan community in Germany. And therefore, I thought we need a strong CTA. Not all Tibetans are well in outside Tibet. I am very often in Nepal, and the political situation for the Tibetan people in Nepal, it's not really good now, because the political situation is very complicated. It's forbidden to show the picture of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. It's forbidden to say something about Tibet, to have a Tibetan flag outside. Very bad situation. But now it's for you, the forum now for you. Who of us has a question? Now it's midday. After midday, you had coffee. Now you are powerful now. Oh, Vijay and you. Yes, okay.
Honorable Sikyong, we have been noticing a quantitative change in the inflow of Tibetan refugees from Tibet to India via Nepal. But over more than a decade, things have changed. And the flow, as we used to see, was on average 2,000 to 3,000 refugee Tibetans coming and joining the diaspora. They were in a way, they were helping to refresh and replenish the community. And because of that, you were getting new talent. There is fear among friends that now that this process has stopped, the average has come down to hardly 3, 4, or 5 in a year. Is it going to make a qualitative change also in addition to quantitative change?
Quantitative change is very, very visible. So still about 2008, we used to receive any number between 2,500 to 3,000 Tibetans from Tibet every single year. Most of them small children who are left behind here to study, not knowing whether they will ever meet their families again or not. So since then, the numbers have been coming down. It's below 50 last year. Of course, because of many reasons. One is more control inside Tibet, including Chinese government doing away with all the guides in Lhasa. So the later ones who have been coming over the last 1 year, they have been hiring guides from Shigatse. And to come from Tibet to Nepal, you have to pay about 32,000 yuans, Chinese yuans, to people to take you over the Himalayas. So even on pressure on Nepal has increased. For the first time last March, we had 3 or 4 Tibetan monks who came from eastern part of Tibet or northeastern part of Tibet. And just 1 week after their arrival at the reception center in Nepal, the Nepalese police came with a warrant and police with guns to arrest these monks from the reception center. So this happened for the first time. It had never happened before because we have a gentleman's agreement with UNHCR. So, but these developments keep happening. So how much pressure now in Nepal? I think Wolfgang also talked about the problems that Tibetans continue to face in Nepal. We are looking at the developments there. As of today, the final results are still not out, but Mr. Balan, who is the current mayor of Kathmandu, it's a fairly new party with Lama Cheni, the Nepal Swatantra Party, seem to be winning. And if there is a stable government, there is always pressure from Chinese government. And then Nepal also has to make sure that their relation with India is stable because most of the supplies come from here. So we'll look at the developments and see if Nepal has a stable government, I think we will also be safer. Our people will also be safer. But if not, then a lot of interference could be there from a lot of sections. So there are multiple reasons why these things are happening. Quantitatively, yes, it's affecting, but in future, you never know what's going to happen. So there have been different times where there were more people coming in, then there were less people coming, but it'll become definitely more difficult with the policies that Chinese government is following inside Tibet. So we cannot control this, but we watch every situation. That's why we say for our governance, we need all these numbers. That's why we're working on databases when we talk about increasing the capacity of Central Tibetan Administration, which we have been working with USAID funding earlier. Now, with continued funding from US, we continue to take this forward. But there are a lot of areas we need to do, but the Security Department is watching over this, but we cannot control the flow of people.
Thank you. Rein?
Quality. Well, when there are no people coming from Tibet, you can't talk about quality also. If you have people coming in loads, then you can, okay, these are good quality people, educated, you became useful. So when you have don't have too many people coming, because a lot of restrictions from Chinese side. Yeah.
Rein.
I think one can sit then. Yeah.
Sikyong, congratulations on winning your second term.
Thank you.
While I know your second term hasn't officially begun until after the inauguration, I just wanted to ask if you've put some thought into updating the 2021 to 2026 CTA vision paper. When the first version came out, I was at State Department, and it was actually very helpful for us to educate people within the U.S. government as to the CTA's vision and its priorities for the next several years. And so just wanted to see if you could perhaps preview whether that will remain largely the same, or will you do another one, and do you think that you'd make changes to it to adjust for
We're already
all of the developments in the last 5 years?
Yeah, we are already discussing about this. So these next 2-3 months, I won't be traveling much, because now I have a lot of things on my head based on the experience of the last 4.5 years as to what we need to do for the next 5 years. And I told my colleagues in the cabinet that I will visit every department for a full day to review and make assessment and make recommendation for future activities, sit with every single document, and then put all this into words, update the vision paper, which is called Securing Tibet's Future. In Tibetan, it's Maon Pöye Gyatson. So that document will update, will take out those which have been completed, continue with what has to be continued, and then add those elements which we need to do in the next 5 years. So anybody who reads the document will get more clarity on where the CTA is planning to go, at least some sense, if not all the details. Thank you for the support also. We will continue working with everybody together.
Yes.
Janet?
Janet?
Senator Janet.
Thank you, Sikyong, and congratulations on
Thank
your
you.
re-election. It's wonderful news. I'm interested, we've been talking so far about the need to really have at the foreground of the narrative about Tibet, that Tibet is a state under occupation. So I'm interested in your travels and meeting with governments, members of parliament around the world. Where do you think, what are the countries where that's getting the most sympathetic hearing that we might get some leadership from, who are willing to acknowledge that Tibet is a state under occupation, and then, therefore, what they are going to do about that?
I think as a country, United States is the only one that has a law on Tibet, starting from 2002. I'm sure you know the whole story, His Holiness, our relation with CIA and the broken relationship for a very long time. Then His Holiness going back to United States only in 1979. That was also the same year when United States formalized its relation with the People's Republic of China, and then after that there was a Taiwan Relations Act. U.S. always have this administrative and congressional balancing the positions. So on Tibet also, the CECC was formed because of China's entry into WTO, and it's a longish name, but it's essentially a free trade agreement between the United States and China way back in 2001. After that was the 2002 Tibet Policy Act. This process was going on since 2001. So United States is the only one that has been now amended to Tibet Support and Policy Act of 2020. We got this Resolve Tibet Act. In between there was RATA. So there was quite a number of legislations in the United States. So United States is the only government that has legislation on Tibet. Our understanding over the years is that I mentioned a little bit about having to reach out to the British government now, because British is only country who has historical relationship with Tibet. And when Britishers distort Tibetan history, then it becomes difficult for us to reach out to other European countries, but the mechanism in Europe is mostly on human rights and religious freedom. They don't want to talk beyond that. So now we have to see how to take that Tibet narrative beyond religious freedom, beyond human rights issue. I keep saying Tibet, the Sino-Tibet conflict is not about just a minority issue. It's not an indigenous issue, not just an entity. It's not just a human rights issue or an environmental issue. It's an issue of a nation, of a civilization, of a people. So what kind of arrangement we reach in future is a different matter. But as of now, we have to speak the truth about the historical truth of Tibet. So in Europe also we face these challenges. When you go to the national government, say, oh, EU handles the foreign policy. If you go to the EU level, national governments will be more useful. So those things also happen. And at the EU level, we have not been able to make too much dent in the administration level. But of course, at the parliament level, there has been a lot of efforts, and we have been quite successful in passing several resolutions. But then again, the question is, resolutions are binding or not on the government. So Australia also have been useful, but then one of the things that we wanted to do was to increase the visibility of the Tibetan leadership. I'm not talking about myself. I don't care where I am. I'm an ordinary person. The Tibetan parliament speakers, Sikyong ministers, secretaries. So wherever we go, if we are able to establish some kind of protocol, institutionalize those protocols, which sets precedents for future governments also to work with future Sikyongs, that is something that we have to set about doing things. So Indian government, we do have keep saying we have a very transparent relationship. And we have a Tibetan saying, when children have problem, they have nowhere to go but their parents. So Indian government is our parent. So whenever we are in trouble, then we reach out to Indian government, and Indian government has always been very, very helpful. If it is not for the government and people of India, we don't exist. That's what we keep saying. So this is general, but then now, of course, with the changing global scenario, our people are also making their dents. So to this time, I think we have participation from South Korea. Our outreach to South Korea has not been very successful. And just a few days back, we had members of parliament from Philippines. There were members from Fiji before for earlier programs. So we are also increasing our footprint in Southeast Asian region where we have not been able to reach at all. And I mentioned about the religious leaders from these 12 different countries. So that was also something very unique. It's all happening because of His Holiness. I hope I answered some part of your question, because the whole international scenario is so vibrant now that we have to keep watching news every single day to look at the changes.
Yes.
Solanga. He comes from South India, I come from South India. He speaks Tamil. So I also speak little Tamil language. So we converse in Tamil.
Honorable Sikyong, first of all, congratulations from southern region, especially as a core group from southern region, from Tamil Nadu and Puducherry. Congratulations for your son winning in the election as a Sikyong, first of all. And guten Abend, Wolfgang, guten Abend. My question is, Sikyong ji, just you have traveled almost all parts of the world. What is the political situation about the Tibet supports in other countries? How they are giving the full support? What is the political situation now? That is my question. I want to clarify. Then the next one suggestion is there. So especially in southern regions, regarding the awareness is concerned, we want each, and for example, you are telling that Tamil. If the Central Tibetan administration is taking the initiative in Tamil language, in Karnataka, Kannada language, and also in Telugu, Andhra in Telugu, like that in southern part, if we give the awareness of small pamphlets about Tibet awareness to give a more support, that will be more useful, and there will be, soon we can dream for a free Tibet. This is my suggestion, and that is my question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
if you are asking about political situation in the countries that I went, where we have Tibet support group, then it's a very large question, which may not be relevant to us also at this point in time. If you're asking about the Tibet support movement or the strength of it in different countries, then I would say all these started way back in the late 80s when, there was peaceful demonstration in Lhasa. Some of them are here, like Gunther, Krista. They were there in Lhasa at that point of time. And then the Tibet movement started. So the first International Tibet Support Group conference also was held here in the late 80s, in around 89. So from 59 to 89, for 39 years, you can imagine where our international outreach was. Because our people also didn't speak any of the languages. We didn't have the skills. It was only His Holiness who was doing everything around, and His Holiness was also not able to travel as much as he did later in the 80s and 90s. He went to Europe for the first time in 1973, and US for the first time in 1979. So since then, of course, the visits also multiplied. So at one time, we used to have a lot of Tibet supporters everywhere. It used to be the foreigners at the forefront of Tibet movement, leading them. Even in India also, the first generation of Indians know about Tibet. So in the US, we were talking about the Student for Free Tibet, the movement, how that came about with Beastie Boys, organizing concerts for Free Tibet, and out of that earning, at one time we used to talk about more than 400, 500 students for Free Tibet chapters in the United States schools and university campuses. Now, it's not there. Students for Tibet are also mostly Tibetan youths in different countries who are joining that. The number of non-Tibetans are not as much as we would like to see. Of course, we are also trying to reach out now to speak at universities in different countries. So we should take those opportunities also to harness the youth of other countries to join the movement. In the US Congress also, we are trying to do the same. Now, some of our friends like Nancy Pelosi, Speaker Emerita, Nancy, who has been our guiding light in the Congress for so many years, now she's not going to stand, McCall is not going to stand. So we have to make sure that, again, we bring in a younger generation of Republican, Democrat, Senate, House leaders. So we have to keep on doing this. Now, when you see more Tibetans outside in foreign countries, then you see less foreigners. So that's why we're saying when there are more Tibetans, there should be more Tibetan friends. Every single person might have 3-4 friends. So if you have 1,000 Tibetans, there should be 4,000 friends. That should be how it is, but it's not happening in that manner. So what we have done is to set up this VTAG. For every Tibetan to join the movement, because some Tibetans would say, oh, I wanted to do something, but I didn't get the platform to do it. So what we are saying is we have created a platform. So join us in the dance if you have the skill to do it. So now about a little more than 800 young Tibetans have registered with VTAG. Now we have to fine-tune how the VTAG should function with the existing organizations that are already doing their things. So one idea I was thinking about was, since VTAG members are mostly young Tibetans who are either in school or universities or just started doing jobs, so they have very limited time. They have to do their studies, but maybe they can spend the weekends or some holidays for VTAG. So the best thing to do is, starting from the area they live, if they make a plan as to how many members of parliament you want to reach from here to so many territories within 1 year, 2 years, keep constant touch with these members in the district or the riding or the constituency, whichever you are talking about, and then make sure that you know these people, you make sure that these people understand Tibet, and next time when we travel to whichever that country, like in Tamil Nadu also, or Pondicherry also, if you keep in touch with a member about Tibet, keep him or her interested. Next time when I come, you will say, oh, this member you can meet easily. So those are the kind of things without stepping on each other's toes. There are existing organizations, so don't disturb that structure, let that go on. But here, whether you are speaking for independence or autonomy, it doesn't matter. As long as you tell the people you meet that this is the official policy, and I personally or my organization wants independence for Tibet, I don't think it sends wrong mixed messages. So your message has to be clear what the official position is, and then you pursue your own thing. So one of the reasons why we changed our strategy is also to make sure that all Tibetans can come together. For independence proponents, if they want independence in future, they have to prove the independence of Tibet in the past. And for middle way, as we discussed this morning, to gain traction on middle way value and for middle way, we have to get recognition for the ends. So till we cross the river, we are on the same path. Right? There's no need to fight amongst ourselves. So we can go together. This is what we are working towards in the form of unity. So my thinking and the 16th cabinet's thinking is the same, that whatever time we have, we don't interfere in Tibetan parliamentary politics. Right? I've been there for 20 years, so I know how it is. So I'm not talking about good or bad thing, right? But we focus our time, whatever time we have, focus on our work, and it'll show its result. If you spend only 50% on your work, only 50% result will show. If you spend more time on it, that much more result will show. And I think we have proven that in the last 4.5 years. And particularly if we can all work together. You have Tenjula here, Ryan, from the, at least from the US ICT side. We work very closely with the Office of Tibet on every initiative that we take, we discuss, we strategize with members of parliament in the Congress, and then take on from there. There's no mixed messages at the Hill when we work together. We always go together. So this kind of leadership in Washington, D.C., and then you have the lobby, which can be replicated everywhere. Lobby days. This is exactly what's happening in Europe as well. Now we are extrapolating all those in other regions. So if we can increase doing all those things, it will definitely produce results. Yeah.
So the next question. Oh, yes. Don't know the, and then
Maybe
you
next, yeah.
the next, yes.
Me or somebody?
No, no. Did you wanted to say something, or you? If you want to say something,
Yeah.
you say it. Then you give it to him.
Okay. Okay. No.
No. Please sit. No.
No. I must compliment that your candidness of your situations which you have faced and you had explained here.
Speak a little
And,
more in the micro, yes. Yeah.
No, I was saying that, Sikyong is quite candid in his, the experience and all that. I know him, that he is a man from the grassroots. So he knows the practical situations on the ground. So my experience of the last many years of the working with the Tibetan is that one concern which you had not just now, explained is that you see we have got the students in the colleges and universities, Tibetan students I'm talking about. So wherever they have, they should, at their own level, in the colleges or the universities at their own level, talk about the Tibetans, talk about the Tibets, to know the other Indian friends, about this thing. That would be a very, very helpful even to, involve the people as a whole. Because after so many years, even for some parts of in our own country, in India also, it's difficult even to they talked about they know about the Tibetans. So I think, as you said, in the abroad also, when you are going there, it's the support groups are where you are finding the Tibetans. But there should be some effort. I'm saying that now from the city, within the country and abroad also, among the younger generations, that they should be entrusted, in fact, that you now into with that citizens of that country and then younger generation of that country. That will be very helpful to take ahead our movement.
Sure. I completely agree with you, and we have also been doing similar things. The opportunity that I got to speak at the JFK Junior Forum at Harvard University was also because of one Tibetan girl who's studying there in that department. And she's the only Tibetan girl. So she managed to pull that off, to invite us and speak there. And it's considered quite a prestigious platform. So we started with Oxford and Aberdeen, Westminster, so Warwick University. In the United States also, we try to reach out to as many. And this will be one of our focus areas. Because His Holiness also says, older people, it's difficult to change their mind. Younger people, you can still change. So we have to reach out to the youth, even in India. So last year we were in Lucknow, in Guwahati. Your co-group member helped organize. We spoke at 4 or 5 universities in Guwahati and 3 or 4 universities in Lucknow. Now we have to cover more to educate Indian youth about, because you're our neighbor. So people sometimes don't know where Tibet is. They don't even know which is bigger, Tibet or Bhutan. So we have to provide the basics, and maybe go back to my Pondicherry friend. We are going into AI now. We are not going to lag behind. So we have some project. We started e-governance soon after we came in. Now we will be going into AI. We have our prodigious monk, Kishimelam, to work with. And there were also a lot of other ideas that just yesterday evening, one AI team from Lucknow, Indian city of Lucknow, came with a recommendation from a common friend who have common interests. So they also did a lot of things. They were showing me some of the things that they did. And one of the projects that we are thinking about is a history, academic approach to Tibetan history, which you can watch on YouTube, maybe not Netflix so easily, but this is one of the things we want to do for younger generation of Tibetans, as well as any non-Tibetan who is interested in learning about Tibet. There should be a 1 hour or at the most 2 hours movie about the whole history of Tibet for them to understand, and then along with that, the environmental importance and importance of Tibet Buddhist culture. So those are very much in the pipeline. We are also trying to counter China point by point in the sense that when they do demographic or cartographic aggression, now we are in the second year of our project to develop our own digital cartography of Tibet, and also make sure that the original Tibetan names of the places in Tibet are maintained, even if China is trying to destroy now, for the future generation of Tibetans to reclaim, if it comes to that. So these are some of the projects we are thinking, we are executing, planning in a strategic manner. The reason for doing the history conference is also because China talks about tradition of using the golden urn. And now historians say that there is no document related to that from the Chinese side or from the Tibetan side. So these new, Professor Lau has, I wanted to share you this, Professor Lau has this very interesting thing when he was researching for the book. He says Chinese government claims that they liberated Tibet from, sometimes they say slavery, sometimes they say imperialism, whatever. So slavery was mentioned, right? That's why they said they liberated Tibet peacefully. Now, Professor Lau says that when he went through all the Chinese historical records, there are mention of slavery on the China-Manchuria border. There was mention of slavery in China-Mongolia border. There was mention of slavery within China. But there was no mention of slavery in Tibet at all in Chinese historical records. So which means only two things, that either there was no slavery in Tibet, or Tibet was not part of China, because those records were not there. So similarly, he talks about land records and revenue records. So very simple things to prove the independence of Tibet. But then, of course, he looked at, now it's 1,200, some 800 pages, so 2,800 pages. And we are trying to come with a concise version of that book so that ordinary people can read, but don't leave this book. If you get a copy of that, please keep it to yourself, because this is going to be a very important resource material, a reference book to go back to if you want to go into details of how Tibet was never considered part of China. So these are important tools that we need to develop when we go out, reach out. That's why I always carry, wherever I go, these two books are with me all the time, whether it's Foreign Office or Parliament or Tibet Support Group, anywhere. So we have to use these tools to achieve our purpose. Please. I completely agree. We have to reach out to the youth more and also engage the Tibetan youth more. We'll do that.
Mr. Hirofumi from Japan.
Tashidere,
Tashidere.
I'm Hirofumi Kameda from Japan. First of all, congratulations on your second term, Sikyong.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for offering these two books today. These two books are very excellent, so I translated these books into Japanese several years ago.
Thank you. That's another thing that all of you can do in your region, translate in your languages. But then now you have AI, so it's very easy these days.
And I'm now translating Tibet Brief 2020. So today I have a question about Tibet Brief 2020. The book says we should not use the term Tibet issue because it is too vague. The book suggests we should use Tibet-China conflict. What do you think about this idea? Do you think all of us should use Tibet-China conflict instead of Tibetan issue? What do you think?
The issue could be big, small. Issue could be between Brian and me, two people. Issue could be between two communities, two nations. It could be big and small. Now, if we have to give the right status to the problem, then it's Sino-Tibet conflict. Now, in the US Resolve Tibet Act, it is Sino-Tibet dispute. So, there's one word, but in Tibetan, it's almost similar, dispute and conflict. But conflict, if it sounds more violent, then it's better to have another word. But there is a problem between China and Tibet. So we have to give the right status to the conflicts. That is why you have to use Sino-Tibet conflict instead of saying Tibetan issue. So I try to avoid that as much as possible. And if you see the Tibetan later documents of CTA, you will also find that we try to use the issue less than more. Give the right focus on the thing. Yeah. Understood? Good? Okay. Then translate also right in Japanese. Huh? So, last?
Yes.
Yes.
Or two questions.
Yeah,
The man
please.
in the back.
Yeah,
Please.
continue.
Yes, yes.
Sikyong, please, I always talk with my friends, women in Brazil, about women and childhood in Tibet now. Because it seems to me and to other women in Brazil that Tibetan mothers become like a commodity, warm commodity to give a birth for Tibetan children. And as it happens to Panchen Lama, China are kidnapping all Tibetan children. Then my question is how to talk to my fellows, my woman fellows that wish to understand this dispute and how it's terrible to see your children take out from your arms at 6 years old to send to a border school. What message you as a Sikyong, as a father, could send for these women in Brazil? Thank you.
Now, this is a very tough challenge for us inside Tibet, because as His Holiness also said, Professor Samdor Rinpoche also said, there is nothing much that we can do from here about what's happening inside Tibet. So we have to send the right messages, because you mentioned about age of 6, but the reality is they are taking from the age of 4. So people who went to Tibet recently, who came out, with whom we had conversations with, and even earlier, several months earlier, I was being told again and again to tell this and send the message inside Tibet that now it's not just the border area. The border areas we had a lot of Chinese speakings. In some areas, if you don't speak Chinese, you don't understand also each other. But now, even in the capital city of Lhasa, 4-year-olds taken to boarding school, when they come weekend holidays or longer holidays, they don't speak Tibetan at all. So I asked them, is it teaching only Chinese, or how do they do it in school? So I was told that they are made to watch only Chinese cartoons, so that they see only Chinese figures, they hear only Chinese words. So when they come home, now they don't speak Tibetan anymore. So this is one of our biggest challenges, because if this continues for another 15, 20 years down the line, then it's going to be very problematic. But we also have faith in the spirit of the Tibetan people inside Tibet. Because now, for almost 66 years, China has been repressing us. But we still persisted. Tibetan people still persisted inside Tibet. And right now, the control and surveillance aided by American companies like IBM and others to control and surveil people. It's very difficult to do anything. Even if you want to think about self-immolating, you have to think 100 times before doing it, because your DNA and all your relatives' DNA are with the state. And the first line of suspicion becomes all your family members. So because of your action, your family will also. So just yesterday, one Indian group came and asked me, what's this rule of to become a monk, you have to be 18, was there for a long time. This came about recently from the Chinese side. Even if you have to become a monk, you need 4 guarantors to say that you will not commit any political crime. So if you do something, all your 4 guarantors will also go to jail. It's like Hindi movie where the antagonists do all these kind of hostage taking and so emotional blackmailing, and those kind of things are very much happening. Now the scenario is that you can't open up to each other, because the anti-espionage law is so deep that if we were, let us say, university friends 30 years ago, meeting after 30 years, I cannot open up to you, because you could report me to the authorities, or I could report you to the authorities. If I get worried, you go to jail. That's the level of fear, not maybe like the SS of East Germany of those days, but then it's very deep down. That's also the reason why people are not able to do anything. Yeah. Okay. One.
Thank you. Is there only
One
last
last?
special question?
Sure. Ale, Surendra ji.
Yeah. Okay.
The tangi dipara de jijanas wasure.
One moment, Michael.
Surendra Kumar ji is our very
Welcome.
senior Gandhian.
He has the
Please,
Michael.
Mike. Surendra ji, mic le लीजिए.
Hello. First, we want to congratulate on your victory as next term for the Sikyong.
Thank you.
That clearly says that Tibetan people have reposed confidence in you, and they expect more from you. At this stage, I want to ask you not to ask, but just I want to know, what do you expect from the support groups, mainly Indian support groups? What is your expectation, and what should we do to fulfill your expectation? I want that you should guide us in this conference.
Thank you. I think every one of us knows what that means. Even after 65 years of having lived in India, we believe that Indians must be knowing about Tibet and its history, environment, and all that. But when you go to Delhi also, sometimes people who are supposed to know about Tibet don't know about, finer details of Tibetan history. That's also the reason why we decided to organize, as part of the 90th birthday celebration of His Holiness this year, we decided to commemorate the 75th anniversary of His Holiness enthronement and then also the 86th anniversary of His Holiness the enthronement was 86th, and the 75th was His Holiness taking over the political and spiritual leadership. These two events also to focus on finer details of Tibetan history, because those were times when Tibet was independent. Right. So now in India, again, awareness is very limited. India is so huge; it's 1.4 billion people. And we will also make efforts. Now, if we get, in the next cabinet, if we get ministers for all the departments, then I can spare a little more time to do larger issues like strategizing and, dialogue issues, or reaching out to governments and keep the community intact. So these are some of the areas that I will need to focus on. And then we'll need to work together. So I think there have been quite a number of invitations where I could not go, so we'll make time for all these to travel to Indian cities. When we go there, then you arrange talks in the universities, just like it happened in Guwahati and Lucknow. I think those will be useful, but also make sure that we have to, I think, still work together to see how we can increase the numbers. I was there in Lucknow. We spoke. The reception was very good. There was vice chancellors, registrars, everybody, researchers, everybody. At the end of it, again, is there somebody to follow up to increase the number of people because now a lot of Indian intellectuals, people who are learned, wants to be part of the movement. So how do we carry them with us all through? It cannot be done by one person, right? So it need not necessarily only be Sikyong to talk about all these things. You can invite other members of our family here in CTA to talk about all those. And of course, we will be working on, we already developed an app for religious pilgrimage from the Department of Religion and Culture. So now we are putting QR codes on every monastery, on every statue, so now you can listen to about this. Because right now, people come to Tibetan monasteries, but they don't understand anything. There's nobody to explain in the local languages also. So we developed this app. Now we have to have this in as many vernacular languages and international languages as much as possible. And this is universal. This can be used. So similarly, there will be a lot more new projects like that. And one of the most important projects is digitization of all the available scripts, Buddhist scripts, with the Boston digital script, and all the monasteries are involved with religion and culture to digitalize all the scripts, so we can have all the Tibetan scriptures under one roof. And this will be one of the biggest achievements of this administration of CTA, to be able to do this, working with other groups. So again, when we speak to Indians, we have to build that emotional bonding with the Indians, starting from the first king of Tibet to the Tibetan script having come from India, and also China is trying to steal your narrative that Tibetan Buddhism came from China. So Tibetan Buddhism came from India. So all these connections, and Tibetans having worked on transliterating all available Buddhist texts for 5 centuries, from 8th to 13th century, before Buddhism almost vanished out of Tibet. So those are huge contributions, and the relations between India and Tibet that needs to be understood by the larger Indian population. And one of the ideas why I mentioned the pilgrimage app is because a lot of Indians come. I was born in Bailakupi. My next camp is Golden Temple. There's so many tourists coming in that it's difficult to travel through that road on Saturdays and Sundays. You have to take another road to do that, for us to go to the bigger market. So when so many people are coming, they want to know, they want to understand. Right now, they see only the buildings and go home. That's it. So if you have these apps in different languages, then Indians will also understand that these Tibetan Buddhist monks look a little different, but they are all studying the same texts that were formulated by Indian masters of the past. So when they see that connection, then I think there will be a little more emotional bonding. And also the fact that His Holiness vision for all these bigger Buddhist centers, either it should become like Nalanda of the past, or it should become International Buddhist Studies Center of the future, which is meant for everybody, not just Tibetans or the Himalayans. It's for Indians, it's for non-Indians, anybody who wants to study Tibetan Buddhism. So this also brings the emotional quotient into the whole exercise. And then once they get interested, then they might also ask questions about if we can have more Tibet museums in every Tibetan settlement. So they will also get more idea about what Tibet is, historically, the situation inside Tibet, the fleeing, all those. So there are many elements that we are thinking, but when to get it on the ground, even Tibetan sweater sellers, winter for 4 or 5 months, Tibetans go to about 247 Indian cities, towns, and villages to sell winter wears, right? And they stay there for 3 or 4 months. And they have their own shopping malls, depending on the situation in different areas. So is it possible for us to create materials? It's not possible for people to do business and speak about Tibet at the same time. So can we have TVs, shows going throughout the day on Tibet? So anybody who comes in and buys always watches something and goes back. So we're thinking about many ways of how to reach out and, be accessible. But then that our resources are very limited. And when I travel also, I travel like crazy. We don't have rest in between also right now. So if we have more members working on the board, then we can circulate, we can reach out. The more times we are able to reach out, we make better friends. You go only once in 5 years, that's it. You go back again and again, then you make friends. Like Senator Rice here. So, and if you have more friends like Senator Rice and others in different countries, then our movement naturally gets strengthened.
So
Yes.
thank you. Now we have no micros more.
Okay, you want to close this?
Yes.
Let Vijayji close, and then
you
you
have
take
always so wonderful words. You can close. We have no micro. Okay. Yes. Is there a micro nearby? Oh, yes.
Sorry, this time I'm going to have a little difficult kind of words. I really appreciate Honorable Sikyong's idea that when visitors come to places like, monasteries or the sweater sellers go around, they can inform their customers or other people through apps or whatever it is. But one thing I would suggest, which I'm sure you can do it. There is very next door canteen. We are going there every day these days. And this is same thing happening in places like Leh, Tibetan market, Majnu Ka Tila, Delhi market, and here also, that Tibetan sellers are selling Chinese goods. In this canteen, the whole rack is full of tissue papers from China. I don't know, those tissue papers in India are not made. It gives a very bad impression to the friends of Tibet who are so dedicated to the cause of Tibet, and they find a Tibetan canteen which is very much inside the CTA complex, having a full rack full of Chinese-made tissue papers. So I'm not condemning any person there. My suggestion is, if your leadership can give this kind of instructions and education to Tibetans, if they cannot educate the guests about the cause of Tibet, at least they should not appear to be oblivious to their status and selling the Chinese goods. Thank you. Sorry for pointing out, but I think it was necessary.
Okay, thank you, Vijay. And today it was the first day we come together, and now it's finished now. Maybe you will say some words for tomorrow. And it was a wonderful discussion with you, and thank you for your words, Sikyong. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sikyong, for graciously accepting this invitation to have the opportunity for an open interaction. And thank you, Wolfgang, for moderating this session and facilitating. Can we present a memento for Mr. Wolfgang? May I request Sikyong to please honor Wolfgang. Thank you. So with this, we have come to the conclusion of our first day of the Special International Tibet Support Group's meeting. I'm sure everyone must be really tired, especially after long journey you have made from all around the world to be here today. Your presence means a lot, and we look forward to more interactive session tomorrow. So wish you a pleasant and restful night, and see you all tomorrow morning. Thank you once again.